Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my reading wrap up for the month of June. So today we're going to talk about the books that I read this month, whether I liked them or not, and give you some quick reviews and synopsis of them. So as always, almost everything I'm talking about today is some kind of mystery or thriller. I do have one nonfiction book that I'm going to share with you guys, but otherwise we have a bunch of mysteries. So let's go and hop into our first book. Some of the first books that I finished this month were from the Noodle Shop Mystery Series. I have book 2 and book 3 here. Book 2 is called Dim Sum of All Fears, and this series is written by Vivien Chien, and it's featuring Lana Lee, who works at her family's noodle shop restaurant in a place called Asia Village, which is a shopping plaza with all types of Asian restaurants, grocery stores, and different shopping places. So the basic premise of this mystery is that Lana is actually put in charge as manager of the noodle shop restaurant because her parents are going back to Taiwan to visit family, and so she's out there, she's managing the place. She's not exactly happy about it because she has to give up a different job opportunity to manage the family restaurant, and she's getting along okay. However, the newlywed couple who owns a shop next door ends up dying in what appears to be a murder-suicide situation. However, the more Lana looks at the situation, she believes that it's actually just a murder where the two people were both murdered instead of a murder-suicide. And so she starts to delve into the mystery and try to figure out what exactly happened. This one was really gripping. The first book in the series, Death by Dumplings, I did enjoy. I gave it 3.5 stars, but the mystery was a little bit too obvious for me. It lacked a little bit of depth. This one definitely hit the nail on the head. I gave this a strong 4.5 stars. It was really good, really compelling, hard to put down. And after I finished it, I immediately wanted to read the third book, which is a very good sign, right? So the third book is called Murder Lo Mein, and this book takes place as Lana is helping her family's restaurant when they are in a noodle competition. So the series does take place in Cleveland, and there is the Cleveland's Best Noodle Contest that her family's restaurant and a bunch of other noodle shops and restaurants throughout the town. So not only are the people in restaurants competing in this competition very they have a lot of animosity towards each other because they're in the competition, but they also have a lot of animosity and grudges and long-term kind of feuds between each other because some of them have affected each other's business over the years. Some have done well, some haven't. So there's a lot of animosity between these businesses because they're all competitors just in everyday operations basically. And so this mystery kicks off when one of the judges, a food critic who has had a lot of scathing reviews for a lot of these places, and he has a lot of enemies, he ends up dead face down in a bowl of lo mein. So that's the name, and this is a very, very compelling mystery. I also really enjoyed this. I think this one was probably my favorite of the two, but I gave them both a strong 4-star rating on Goodreads. I'm really excited to read the next ones in the series, and yeah, I'm excited to check out the next one for my library. Alright, so our next book is called An Appetite for Murder by Lucy Burdette, and this is part of the Key West Food Critic series. It is book 1 of the series. This was a completely new book, an author, and series to me. I've never read anything by the author before, and I really enjoyed this. I actually included it in my summer cozy reads recommendations, which I'll link above as well if you want some fun recommendations for summer. All of the books in that video are summer themed in some way, or have a summer food theme, or are taking place in a tropical climate, something of the sorts. So An Appetite for Murder, the essential plot of it is it follows a character named Haley Snow, which I absolutely love her name. I think that's a really pretty name. And she kind of makes the mistake of following a new love to Key West, Florida, and they move in together, and quickly things go awry. She finds him engaged with a lady, and moves out, and she's living with her friend on a houseboat, which I think is a really interesting setting. I've never read a cozy mystery or anything really where the character was on a houseboat, and she's looking to kind of pick up the bones of her life, which just kind of fell apart in her face, and so she applies to become a food critic for this popular magazine in the area. And she thinks things are going well. She's really excited for the position, but she learns that the would-be boss for the food critic position is actually the woman who was cheating with her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend that is, and so she's immediately oh boy, there's no way I'm gonna get this. that this is it. But she turns the application in anyways, and unfortunately that woman ends up dead, and Haley is the prime suspect immediately. Not only this, but it's found that the woman who was killed, Kirsten, is actually killed by key lime pie, and Haley had just written and published a piece on key lime and key lime pies, which is kind of, not a great coincidence. She also has no established alibi for the time of the murder because she was at the houseboat alone writing her pieces, so she has like no alibi. And the police are very suspicious of her. So in this mystery, she goes about trying to clear her name and, trying to prove her innocence, and also just to get justice for her, because even though she doesn't like Kirsten, of course, I mean, no one would probably like a person they found like that with their significant other, but she obviously this is a wrong, that she should not have been murdered. So she goes about trying to solve the mystery and clear her name in the process, because the police are very much like intent that it's her. They're very certain it's her. So she goes about her days trying to figure out what happened while trying to finish this like huge application for the food critic position that she really wants. And it's a really compelling mystery. It's very mouthwatering. It has a tropical vibe to it because of the Florida Key West setting, the houseboat, the food, everything feels very like tropical and summery, which was fun. And I already have the second one actually on hold right now at the library for myself, so I'm really excited to read that. Okay, so this next one is definitely not a cozy mystery or cozy read whatsoever. This is a true born thriller, and it was very thrilling. So I got into a bit of a reading slump this month. I was trying to do this reading vlog, which may never see the light of day, and I just got really like stuck on some of the books I was trying to read for, and it just kind of, for like a week or so, I just kind of avoided reading, which it kind of backfired, but I needed something to really get me back into reading and just like going through. So I thought, you know what, I've had this on hold, and this is a thriller, and the last one I read was very much a page turner by this author, so I was like, let's do it. And that is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. This is a new release this year. The other one I read from her is called The Guest List. So I really enjoyed The Guest List. I gave it like 3.5 to 4 stars. It was a great thriller, extremely page turning. Definitely her writing is about as dark as I can get when it comes to like just dark themes, dark scenes, or like just very intense, like a little more, it's definitely more graphic than most things that I read. However, I find that the way she describes people, she's a very good like study of character. And something I find interesting is that in both The Paris Apartment and The Guest List, she actually tells the story from multiple points of view. And normally that is a type of storytelling that I don't like. I like to read a book from one point of view, and that's it. She jumps around to at least 4 or 5 characters in each of these books, and somehow, without even like looking at the name of the chapter, like who the person it is based on, I could tell you who it is based on the way she changes the writing style, the way the characters, like, it's really, really good the way she describes it. It's very clear who is talking, whose voice. Like, each character has a very strong voice and motivation and just like presence in the book. And I have to commend her for that, because I normally do not like multiple points of view. So this book I give a strong 4 stars. It was a very entertaining read. Like The Guest List, the characters in this are extremely flawed. Every single character is, except for maybe like one person or so in each book, is definitely very unlikable to a certain degree. Like, she gives you enough information where you kind of sympathize with almost everybody, because they've all had horrible things happen to them usually, but they've also all done terrible things, but it makes it for a very entertaining, dramatic read. So if you're looking for something that is truly a page turner, this is entertaining. The premise of The Paris Apartment is that essentially our main character is coming to Paris. She's kind of fleeing a bad situation in England, and she's coming to stay with her brother, who has this nice apartment in Paris, and it's part of kind of like a closed apartment community. So each floor is its own like residence basically, so it's a very, very nice apartment place. And she arrives, and she lets him know ahead of time she's coming. He knows she's coming, and her brother is nowhere to be found. And she had also received a voicemail from him where he kind of got cut off in the voicemail, and she's kind of concerned, thinking that someone like surprised him or something happened to him. And so she stays the night in his apartment, she breaks in, she sleeps, and she expects to find him in the morning like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot, I went out, I forgot you were coming, and he doesn't arrive. He's not there. So she starts questioning the other people in the apartment, and as the back kind of says, there's the socialite, the nice guy, the alcoholic, the girl on the verge, the concierge. Everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everybody knows something they're not telling. So she starts talking to the people in the apartment. Some of them are very much unhelpful, very like pushy. Some of them are friends of her brother, so it's just it's very interesting, and she's trying to piece together things about her stepbrother. And she realizes that she really, doesn't know much about him. She doesn't really know what he's been working on. She doesn't know what his romantic life is like. So it's really interesting for her to try to piece this together through talking to the residents of this apartment complex. And I have to say, the different twists in this, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but they were very twisty. I absolutely was floored. I was just like laying in bed reading this, like reading through it as quick as I could because I was hooked. And when I got to like the major reveals and stuff, I was just like, wow, like mind blown. They were very good, very intense, dark. So if you're looking for kind of a darker read, a true thriller that's really, really heavy page turner, you can't go wrong with The Paris Apartment or The Guest List. They're both really good. Alright, so on a lighter note, this was one of my most anticipated releases of 2022. I did a whole video on that. I'll link it above if you want to check it out. And this is called Strawberried Alive by Jenn McKinlay. It's part of the Cupcake Bakery Mystery Series. It is book 14 in the series, and it just released like a month or two ago. And I've been on hold at my library waiting to get my hands on this. This is one of my favorite cozy mystery series. I have read like 11 books in the series. I just bought some of the last ones that my library didn't have so I can go back and read those now. It's an excellent series. I love Jenn McKinlay. She's also the author of the Library Lovers mystery series, and that's another favorite of mine. But essentially, this takes place around our main character Mel and her best friend Angie, who are best friends, and they run the Fairy Tale Cupcakes bakery in Old Town, Scottsdale, Arizona together. And Mel has recently, in this book, she's recently gotten married. She's a newlywed. She's kind of, a very happy place in her life. And she's just going about her day, making cupcakes, when she has a kind of a bridezilla come in and demand that she redoes the colored fondant on one of her huge cupcake orders because it doesn't match her bridesmaids' dresses or something like that. And there was a mistake on the order that wasn't Mel's fault. Actually, it was on the bride, but Mel decides to make it right and stay late that night. So she stays late, she redoes all the fondant on these cupcakes, and as she's leaving that night, she ends up getting shot at, which obviously is extremely concerning. She does make it out of there, but she is shot at. She calls the police, and they, come assess the situation, all of that. And so the original idea is that perhaps the shooter was trying to take out Mel because after all, all these mysteries that she solved, maybe someone's seeking vengeance for someone she put behind bars. Or her husband is like an attorney and he prosecutes in a lot of like criminal cases, so it's also thought that maybe someone is mad at her husband and so they're trying to take it out on Mel. Something of the sort. So the police are immediately on the case. Mel is thrown into like safe houses. There's a lot of drama where she's, being watched under protection constantly because obviously, it's very unusual to just walk outside your door, lock up your bakery, and get shot out. That's obviously not a normal night for her. And this was such a fun read. I actually read this all in one evening. It's about 260 pages, so it's a little bit on the shorter side, and I love this. It was it definitely delivered. It was one of my most anticipated releases for the year. So I always go into those with a little bit of trepidation because I don't want them to let me down because I always look forward to them so much. And this did not let me down. It was a 5-star read for me, super enjoyable. All the characters were top notch as always. The descriptions were great. The cupcakes were mouth-watering. Recipes are included in these always. And the mystery was so interesting. It's very much unlike anything I've read from a cozy mystery before. Jenn McKinlay, she did it again. I love it. She is coming out with another Library Lovers mystery in the fall, so I will at least have that to tide me over until the next Cupcake one comes out next year, hopefully. Speaking of most anticipated releases, I actually had 2 that I read this month, and the other one was The Burning Pages by Paige Shelton. and this is part of my beloved Scottish Bookshop Mystery Series. I did check it out from the library, so I will pop a picture on the screen because I have returned it. This was book, I want to say 8 in the series, and I've read every book in the series, and this was excellent. If you are someone who loves bookish, cozy mysteries, I would highly recommend this. It's very entertaining. The main character is extremely educated. She works in this kind of mysterious old bookshop in Scotland, so you have this beautiful setting that she's in, and she's an American, so it's very interesting to kind of read about her experiences in Scotland because, you know, this is all new to her. She's only been there for a little while when we start the series, and I just love it. Like, she is a super interesting character. So the premise of The Burning Pages is that Delaney, our main character, is invited to a Burns dinner, which apparently is a tradition in Scotland where, like on Robert Burns, the poet's birthday, people gather together and kind of throw dinners in his honor. So she's invited to this like really exclusive Burns dinner, and so she takes her coworker Hamlet, who's like this young man. I think she's like kind of in her mid to late 30s, and he's like 19 or 20 or something, and she takes him along because he's like a very bookish like college student who would really appreciate this kind of thing. So they go to the event, and they kind of find out that they were kind of like set up to get to Edwin, who is their boss, who kind of has some dubious past. He's a very good man, but he's very eccentric. He's got kind of a little bit of a spotted past, which sometimes comes to play in the mysteries that they are involved in throughout the series. And so they kind of end up leaving in a hurry because they're like, oh, well, you know what, we were set up, like, let's get out of here. And so they leave. However, later that night, someone is actually murdered in the Burns house that they were at, and the place is burned down. So obviously this is very concerning, but it gets even worse when someone identifies Hamlet as someone they saw going into the house after the party had broken up, which Delaney is really confused about because she and Hamlet left together. So she's like, did he go back? Like, what happened? And the police are really looking at Hamlet as a suspect. So to clear her friend's name, she starts to look into the mystery and to try to figure out what happened to the person that was murdered. And what I really like about Paige Shelton's mysteries in particular is that she always has such interesting like context that she puts in her mysteries. Like, you can tell she really does her like research on the setting that she's in. There's a lot of like interesting snippets about history and literature that she really incorporates into her books, and this was no different. It was super interesting learning more about Robert Burns, about the Scottish tradition around that, and just different like tidbits that I never would have thought of. And the reveal for this, I was stunned. It was so interesting. It was so well done. I was thoroughly entertained and blown away, and it was masterful. I really, really loved it. So if you love a bookish cozy mystery, I would either recommend the Scottish Bookshop Mystery Series by Paige Shelton or the Library Lovers one by Jenn McKinlay. Both of them are really good. The Library Lovers one is more of, it's in the United States. It's about a librarian. The other one is a little bit more like a little more history built into it, and it's also you get to learn more about like Scotland and stuff. So they're both super interesting though. I would recommend both if you like books and a cozy mystery like with a bookish theme. Okay, so the next book is actually the one nonfiction I did read this month, and this was a reread for me. I read this book for the first time last fall, and it really changed the way I looked at my time. I'm a little bit of a productivity like nerd. I really like to study it and kind of see how I can maximize and optimize different parts of my life. So I've read a lot of books on the matter and like time management, but this is definitely in probably my top 5. Let me know if you guys would ever want me to make like a top 5 like nonfiction book series like on like time management or something like that. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. But this is called 168 Hours by Laura Vanderkam. And the idea behind this book is essentially that 168 hours, you have more time than you think. 168 hours is how many hours each of us has in a week, so 24 hours times 7. And this book really revolutionized the way that I looked at my time, because before this book I kept looking at my time as I need to do these habits daily. I need to make sure I do this daily. Like, I felt like everything had to be done in a very like every single day or like I failed. And this book really made me look at it and go, you don't need to work out every day. You don't need to even, you don't have to do everything towards your goals every single day. You can instead look at your hours, break it up into 168 hours for the week. And she actually has a really helpful free printout on her website. I will leave a link in my description where it's a table of your 168 hours for the week broken into either 15 or 30-minute increments. And I've actually tracked my weeks in 15-minute increments, which sounds crazy, but I highly recommend it. It's so fascinating to see where your time goes, because those 15 minutes really add up. Like if you spend 15 minutes, on social media or watching TV or just reading, if you try to like replace those little increments with 15 minutes of reading here and there, you will end up reading or doing whatever it is so much more than you think is possible in a week. So I highly recommend that. Now, not only is this book very well written, it's well researched, it is entertaining, there's a lot of emphasis on people who are parents and how to really balance it all and how to have, work-life balance, how to work on things for yourself, your own personal goals and hobbies, how to have family time, like how to just really have a fleshed out, well-rounded life where you can accomplish those things that seem out of reach because they take too much time, but this will kind of show you have more time than you think. Now, the only criticism I do have for this, and I noted this in my review for it, I put like second read through and like an added section on this. I didn't really notice this the first time I read it. This book does assume, like sometimes there are some sections where it goes heavily into trying to outsource different tasks if possible. Now, obviously, if you can't afford to outsource things, that's a really nice way to free up some of your time. And she does mention like maybe that means you cut out part of your cable bill or this or that or something else you enjoy to give up, that money to outsource something that'll free up more time and ultimately give you more enjoyment. But it does kind of, and I saw some other reviewers note this as well, it does kind of come across as like a little bit of a privileged worldview perhaps, and I don't think that's how the author meant it like at all. Like it didn't really come across in a rude way, but it came across to me more as like an aspirational thing, like work towards this if you can't do it now, like try to work towards a point where maybe you can outsource some things, or maybe you can work to switch tasks with someone in your life where you can do something for them that you're good at, that you enjoy more, and they can do something for you that you don't like or don't do as well as them. But I will say overall this book was still extremely helpful. I enjoyed the read through. I would absolutely love to purchase this in the future because I just get so much out of it every time I read it, and it really inspires me to assess my life and how much time I'm spending on things that don't really make me happy, don't get me towards my goals, and what can I do about that? What can I do to optimize that? So I highly recommend this. I've read some of her other books, but this one is my ultimate favorite from her for sure. Alright guys, we have 2 more books. So the next one is called Barely Departed. It's a teddy bear mystery. It is book 1 in this series, and it is by Macy. And so this was I'm actually reading this for a series on my channel about reading subscribers' recommendations. So I'm going to leave my review very brief for this one because I will have a video upcoming on a detailed description of the book and what my thoughts on it were. I would say for me it was okay. It was average. It wasn't amazing. It was interesting enough that I enjoyed reading it, but it was nothing amazing where I wanted to go rush to the library to get the next book. I would consider maybe reading a second one in the series if it really stood out to me with an interesting theme or mystery, but it wasn't my favorite. Same with this next one. It's called Death Becomes Her, an Oregon Honeycomb mystery by Nancy Coco. This is the first in the series as well. This was another one a subscriber recommended to me, and I will go into depth on my review for this one. This one I liked more. I gave it 4 stars. The characters in this were really interesting. I love to learn about the place the character worked, which is called Let It Be Honey Boutique, and our main character Ren has this adorable brown Havana cat named Everett, which you can see right here. I didn't realize going into this that this is actually kind of Halloween themed. Halloween is going on throughout this mystery, and there's mentions of costumes and trick-or-treating and stuff, and I kind of wished the cover indicated that in some way, just because it's a fun, for me that would be a selling point to have a holiday themed cozy. But to me, there's nothing about this that screams Halloween. But overall, this was a good mystery. I really did enjoy this. I will probably check out the next book in the series at my library. So don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I will upload a video shortly coming in the future about reading my subscribers' favorites, and I will go into those last 2 books in more detail, but those are my kind of brief thoughts on the books. The Barely Departed was pretty good. Not my favorite overall, but still good. And this one I did really enjoy overall. I thought it was a solid first start in the series, and I would like to read more for sure in this one. So that is it for my June reading wrap-up. I would love to hear down below in the comments, what books did you read this month? How would you rate them? Would you recommend any of them? Have you read any of the books that I talked about today in my reading wrap-up? What were your thoughts on them? I love hearing your reviews of them as well, even if your opinions are different. That's what makes talking about books so interesting, is hearing what people think and, disagree on and agree on, all of that. So let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. I do upload book content, especially in the mystery genre, every single week, and I don't want you to miss out. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!